آله وصحبه ومن والاه بإحسان إلى يوم القيامة. اللهم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Abu Bakar, you know, there's this fundamental principle of Islam, you know, and particularly in Islamic theology. It's a fundamental principle of theology in Islam that everything on earth belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The wealth that we hold it in trust. You know, they are being entrusted to us. Everything belongs from God, to God. Human beings also belong to God. And yes, you are quite right. Zakat, naturally, the terminology zakat, technically, even literally, means both purification and growth. Whether when you give out zakat is gold and silver, animals, or farm produce is all the same. The fact of the matter is that that 2.5% that you give, or whatever you give out as zakat, will both purify the remaining part of the property, and also it makes it naturally increase. In other words, it encourages growth. So when you give out is zakat, as zakat is money and silver, or gold and silver, or animal. So it does the same service. If you give it out of cows or animal or whatever, or camels or sheep, whatever, because you give it, the remaining part of it now is bound to, it's of course naturally purified, and it's also bound to grow, and also is bound to be blessed from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it does the same service as it does to gold and silver.
In short, you were trying to say that the indirect meaning of not giving zakat is that if you don't give it out, your wealth will not be blessed.
Yes,
and it will be
exactly. If you refuse to give zakat, which is the most dangerous thing that somebody can do on earth, if you refuse to give zakat, now shaitan is embedded within the property, and we always seek refuge, Allah's refuge from Satan, from the devil. So you understand. So Satan is embedded in the wealth. So anything can happen: destruction, diseases, problems. The wealth is devoid of blessings, and so many other problems. But once you take out zakat, it becomes very clean, and you know, very safe and purified wealth, and therefore is bound to increase, to grow, and is blessed, and of course is safeguarded, and you also are safeguarded, but spiritually, physically, financially, and socially. So naturally different is huge.
Okay.
Yeah.
The livestock we have varies. We have numerous types.
Yes, yeah.
Now, in which types do you give out zakat?
Yes, there is this terminology in Islamic jurisprudence, what they call bahimatul an'am, even in the Quran al-Kareem. Al-an'am, there are three categories or three types of animal that fall under the terminology al-an'am. Probably the terminology an'am means, is the plural of ni'mah, means blessings. First of all, camels. The second category, cows. The third category, sheep, goat, and sheep. These are the three categories or types of animal which constitute what we call an'am. You understand? And therefore, these are the only types of animal or categories of animal for which zakat will due. The rest are not subject to zakat. They are not subject to tax. So the three categories are camel, and then two cows, third sheep and goat. And each of this category, within each of this category, you find variations. Okay. But the variations do not matter. Okay. Different types of cow. You have the buffaloes, for instance, and then within the camel family, also within the sheep and goat family, find different variations. But insofar as it falls under one of these names, zakat will become due, or it will be subject to zakat. But any other animal apart from these three is not subject to zakat.
Now, you were telling me that if I have a herd of deers,
yes,
I should give out zakat.
No, you are not supposed to give zakat unless you're doing business. And we'll come back to the word. If you have herds of deers, or you have a large collection of hens, these poultry.
No, what I mean, buffaloes, for example.
No, buffalo will come under the terminology of cows, jamus. The jawamis are part of, which means by buffaloes, they are part of the terminology cow as far as Islamic jurisprudence is concerned. So they're subject to zakat.
So deers are not part of the...
No, deers are not. Deers are not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, there was a time we touched on vegetables and fruits and things like that.
Yeah.
And we explained that there is a distinction, a very clear line between crops that are watered by the individual and those that are watered by nature.
By nature.
Now, in animals also, you have some animals that you take care of at your own home, feed them, give them water, for the production of meat or milk whatsoever. And you have this category of animal which you take out to the bush, for rearing. Now, grazing, rather. Now, is zakat in these two variety or different categories the same?
Yes, exactly the same. Insofar as the animal that you're keeping at home or the one that you let go, insofar as they are under your ownership, you own them and they belong to one of these three categories. That's why what they call al-ma'lufa or ghayr al-ma'lufa. The ma'lufa is the one that you keep at home under constant and close watch, a sort of fattening it. And the ghayr al-ma'lufa are the ones that you let go, but they are under your control, you own them. You keep them in the bush, like you have herds of cows.
But you don't feed them, you don't give them water.
You don't feed them, you don't give them, but they go out. But because they belong to you, you should give zakat. They're all the same.
It doesn't matter, and there's no distinction.
No.
Like in crops, the ones you've watered, you give in every 20, you give 1 bag. So that's nothing like that.
Yeah, the crop, the one that you have, that are watered through nature. You give 1/10. 1/10. Whereas the one that you use through the water through irrigation, you give 1/20 or half of 1/10. You understand? So, but unlike the animal, what is important? Let me repeat this. As far as the animals are concerned, what is important is of one, they must belong to you. You own them, regardless of where you're keeping them. Are they at home or they are in the bush? Because one, you own them, and two, they belong to the category to which is subject to zakat, which is taxable. And three, of course, you must possess the taxable quantity or amount.
Okay.
You understand?
Now, in this part of Africa, we have most people have their own, flocks of sheep, and goats. Now, we'll focus on that as our first batch of animals. Now, how many sheep should I possess to give out tax?
Yeah, I think I will agree with you to start with sheep, because for us, particularly here in the Gambia, which is the most important, category, which almost everybody, most people do have it, and it's the easiest one too. The first taxable amount, or the first, number of sheep that will be subject to tax is 40.
40 sheep.
40 sheep. Anything below 40 is not subject to zakat. But